The last thing I remembered from my first life was the red glow of taillights bleeding through rain. I had been awake for 21 hours. My shift at the overnight distribution center had ended late because someone called out, and I had stayed because I needed the overtime. I always needed the overtime. Rent, my mother's prescriptions, the last of the legal fees from an appeal that had gone nowhere, there was always one more bill waiting for me to be responsible. The wipers dragged across the windshield. My eyes burned. For 1 second, I closed them. A horn split the dark. White light filled the car. Then came the sound of metal folding around me. I had just enough time to think, absurdly, of a cream-colored school cardigan and the folded square of paper that had been pulled from its pocket 9 years earlier. The paper that had destroyed my life. Then everything went black. When I opened my eyes again, someone was knocking on my bedroom door. Maya? You're going to miss breakfast. My mother's voice. Not the thin, tired voice she had after chemotherapy. Not the breathless voice she had when climbing the stairs in our old apartment. Her ordinary morning voice. Warm. Impatient. Alive. I sat up so fast the room tilted. My hands flew to my chest. No seat belt cutting into me. No blood. No glass. Sunlight spilled through the cheap white blinds above my desk. My high school debate trophy stood beside a stack of college brochures. A navy graduation gown hung from the closet door. On my nightstand, my phone buzzed. The screen showed a date I knew before I consciously read it. May 17th. 9 years earlier. My 18th year. The morning of the Westbridge Chancellor Scholars Examination. The day everything began. My stomach clenched so hard I nearly folded over. The phone buzzed again. A message from Sloan Whitaker appeared across the screen. You awake? I'm outside in 10. Wear the cream cardigan. The gym is always freezing, lol. My fingers began to shake. For a moment, I was back in the conference room after the exam, staring at Assistant Principal Delaney while a proctor unfolded a small sheet of paper covered in handwritten formulas and compressed answer notes. I remembered Delaney asking, "Is this yours?" I remembered saying no. I remembered Sloan standing beside the wall with both hands over her mouth, eyes glossy with concern. I remembered the proctor explaining that an anonymous message had warned them to check the right pocket of my cardigan. The right pocket. Not my backpack. Not my desk. Not the floor. My pocket. The note had contained prohibited material relevant to 3 sections of the exam. My score was invalidated immediately while the school and scholarship committee investigated. I had thought the truth would protect me. That was my first mistake. The cardigan belonged to me. The note was in my pocket. My fingerprints were on the paper because, as I later learned, Sloan had asked me to hold a stack of review sheets before the exam and slipped the folded note between them. I had touched it without seeing what it was. The anonymous report came from a prepaid number that was never tied to anyone. Sloan told the school she had seen me studying tiny handwritten summaries all week. 2 classmates remembered me making flashcards. Another remembered Sloan joking that I was basically carrying the whole textbook in my head, and somehow that became evidence that I was obsessive enough to cheat. No one had seen her put anything in my pocket. No one had seen me read the note either. But when a rule violation is sitting inside your clothing, innocence becomes a much harder story to tell. Westbridge University suspended my Chancellor Scholars finalist status. The school placed me on an academic integrity hold. My counselor, afraid of withholding material information, notified Westbridge that a disciplinary review was pending. 3 weeks later, the scholarship committee closed my file. A month after that, Westbridge withdrew the honors admission package attached to it. I appealed. My mother took money out of the emergency fund to help me. We paid for an education attorney for 2 consultations we could barely afford. We requested records. We asked for the anonymous tip metadata. We pushed for a handwriting review, but the note had been photocopied, handled by multiple staff members, and then misplaced after the district's retention period was misunderstood during a summer office move. By the time a technology audit showed that Sloan had used a school library printer that morning, the system no longer retained the content of the print job. Only the time. Only her account. Only a fact that could be explained away. She said she had printed an essay draft. The district believed that was possible. Possible was enough. She graduated with honors. She got the Bellwether Community Leadership Scholarship that had been expected to go to one of us. I enrolled at a commuter college and worked. Then Mom got sick. Then I worked more. Then life became a sequence of things I would fix after the next shift. I never stopped thinking about the right pocket of that cardigan. Now I was 18 again. And Sloan wanted me to wear it. I stared at her message until my breathing slowed. The fear came first. My palms were damp. My heartbeat thudded against my ribs. My body remembered what my mind had spent years trying to explain away. Then another feeling arrived. Not rage. Clarity. I got out of bed and opened my closet. The cream cardigan hung exactly where I remembered, soft and harmless looking, with 2 deep front pockets. I did not touch it. Instead, I pulled out a simple navy dress my mother had bought on clearance for senior awards night. It fell just below my knees. Short sleeves. High neckline. A narrow seam at the waist. No pockets. Not hidden ones. Not decorative ones. None. I turned it inside out anyway. Nothing. I dressed, then emptied my school tote onto the bed. Wallet. Lip balm. Loose receipts. 2 pens. My calculator. A packet of tissues. I looked at the exam instructions on my phone. Government-issued ID. 2 approved wooden pencils. Clear water bottle with label removed. Approved calculator for the quantitative section, to be inspected and stored face up until that portion began. Everything else had to remain outside the testing room in assigned lockers. In my first life, I had brought the cardigan because Sloan told me the gym was cold. This time, I put my ID, 2 pencils, calculator, and clear water bottle into a transparent zip pouch. Then I stopped. The instructions did not require a pouch. I removed the items and carried them loose in my hands. My phone stayed in my bag. My bag would go straight into the locker before I entered the gym. There would be nowhere on my body to hide a folded square of paper. There would also be no reason for me to carry anything for anyone else. Mom knocked again and pushed the door open. She froze. "You're wearing the blue one?" I looked at her. For 9 years, I had remembered her sick. I had forgotten this version of her had glossy dark hair that reached her shoulders. I had forgotten the tiny scar beside her left eyebrow from when she fell off a bike as a kid. I had forgotten how quickly she smiled when she was trying not to fuss over me. My throat closed. She frowned. "Hey. What's wrong?" I crossed the room and hugged her. She made a startled sound, then wrapped both arms around me. "Maya?" "I'm okay." "You're crying." "I know." She leaned back and studied my face. "Are you panicking about the exam?" "No." That was true. I wiped under my eyes. "I just really love you." Her expression softened. That's sweet, but also extremely suspicious before 7 in the morning. A laugh escaped me. The sound nearly broke me again. She touched my cheek. Eat something. You know your brain turns into an angry raccoon when you skip breakfast. Still true. Good. Some things are stable. My phone buzzed on the bed. Sloan. Outside, smiley face. Mom glanced toward it. You're a ride? Yeah. You want me to take you? The answer came so quickly it surprised me. Yes. Mom blinked. Sloan had driven me to school almost every day that spring. Her house was 3 blocks away, and she had a car while we shared one. You sure? Completely. I picked up my phone and typed. Mom's taking me today. See you there. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then disappeared. Then came back. But I'm literally outside, LOL. I looked through the blinds. A white SUV idled at the curb. Sloan sat behind the wheel. Even from upstairs, I recognized the shine of her blonde ponytail and the oversized sunglasses pushed on top of her head. Another message arrived. Also, why aren't you wearing the cardigan? You'll freeze. My thumb hovered over the screen. In my first life, that message had felt caring. Sloan had always been good at caring in ways that created small obligations. She had brought soup when Mom had appendicitis sophomore year. She had slept on the plastic chair beside me in the hospital waiting room until 2 in the morning. When my car battery died in January, she drove 20 minutes out of her way for a week without complaining. She remembered my coffee order. She knew I hated cilantro. She once punched a boy in the shoulder for making a joke about my thrift store prom dress. Some of those things had been real. That was what made betrayal difficult to survive. Cruelty rarely arrived wearing a sign. Sometimes it arrived with soup. I typed back. I'm good. See you inside. Her answer took longer. Okay? Then, bring your tote. I have some stuff I need you to hold during check-in. My mouth went dry. There it was. Not proof. Not yet. But a pattern I had not recognized the first time. Sloan often asked me to hold things. Her phone while she fixed her hair. Her keys while she dug for lip gloss. Her folder while she signed in. Her cardigan when she got warm. Her entire life had always seemed to spill into my hands. I had thought that meant we were close. I typed one sentence. Can't. I'm only bringing allowed exam items inside. I took screenshots of the exchange. Then I emailed them to myself. Not because the messages proved a crime. Because 9 years of hindsight had taught me something simple. Evidence did not become valuable only after you understood what it meant. Sometimes you preserved it first. Then you let meaning catch up. Mom drove me to school 20 minutes later. The whole way, I kept my hands folded around my ID and pencils. At the first red light, she glanced at me. You're weirdly calm. I know what I'm going to do. On the test? Today. She raised an eyebrow. I looked out the window. Senior banners hung from lampposts along Ashford Avenue. The coffee shop where I had worked after losing Westbridge had not opened yet. A new apartment building had not been built. The pharmacy where Mom would later pick up anti-nausea medication was still a stationery store. Everything looked unfinished. As if the world had been returned to draft form. Mom pulled into the high school parking lot at 7:31. Students crossed toward the main building carrying clear bags and water bottles. At the curb, she squeezed my wrist. Whatever happens today, one test is not your whole life. My chest ached. In my first life, she had said the same sentence 3 weeks too late, after I had been accused. Back then I had heard comfort. Now I heard a warning. No, I said. It isn't. I stepped out of the car. Sloane was waiting by the entrance. She wore a pale gray cardigan over a white blouse and navy skirt. Her exam ID card hung from a lanyard around her neck. When she saw my dress, her smile stalled. Only for a second. Then she lifted one hand. Okay, wow. You dressed up. I stopped a few feet away. Her eyes moved over me. Shoulders. Waist. Hips. The smooth sides of the dress. No pockets. Her fingers tightened around the strap of her tote. I remembered the first time around. She had hugged me in this exact spot. I had felt her hand brush the right side of my cardigan. I had assumed she was straightening the hem. Now she stepped forward. I stepped sideways and held up my water bottle. Careful. I'm going to spill this. She stopped. Again, only a second. Since when are you jumpy? Since an exam worth a full ride. She laughed, but her gaze had already dropped to my hands. Where's your stuff? This is it. No bag? Locker rule. You could still bring one to check in. I'd rather not. She shifted her tote higher on her shoulder. Can you hold this for a sec? My ID is buried. No. The word came out gentle. Her eyebrows lifted. I smiled as if nothing unusual had happened. I'm keeping my hands free. Check-in is already moving. For the first time that morning, Sloane looked uncertain. Not guilty. Not afraid. Just inconvenienced. She opened her tote herself. And that was when I knew. Because for 9 years I had wondered whether I had misunderstood. Whether memory had turned suspicion into certainty. Whether grief had made me need a villain. But Sloane did not search for her ID. It was clipped to the inside pocket, clearly visible. Instead, her fingers touched something small near the bottom of the bag. A folded square of white paper. She covered it almost immediately with a packet of tissues. My pulse hammered. I did not stare. I turned toward the doors. Come on. We're going to be late. Behind me, Sloane said nothing. For the first time in our friendship, I did not carry what she wanted me to carry. And the day changed direction. Inside Ashford High, the front hallway had been converted into a testing checkpoint. 2 folding tables blocked the route to the gym. A printed sign listed prohibited items in large black letters. Volunteers directed students toward numbered lockers in the adjacent music wing, while 2 external proctors from Westbridge University checked IDs against the registration roster. The process was more formal than an ordinary school exam. That mattered. In my first life, I had treated the building like school because it was school. I knew the teachers, the lockers, the squeak in the gym floor near the south bleachers. But the Chancellor's Scholars Examination was administered by Westbridge, not Ashford High. The school provided the site. Westbridge controlled the testing room, the materials, and the incident procedures. That distinction had become painfully important during my appeal. This time, I read every sign. At the locker station, a volunteer handed me a numbered key tag. Bag and phone in the locker. You can take your ID, pencils, water, and approved calculator. I nodded. My bag is in my mom's car. Even easier. I gave her my name. She checked a box beside it and wrote "No stored items" in the property column. My eyes lingered on the notation. In my first life, I had stored my tote but worn the cream cardigan into the testing room because clothing was allowed. There had been no record of what was in its pockets. Today there would be a record that I had brought nothing else inside. Sloane reached the station behind me. She opened her tote and started pulling things out. Phone. Wallet. Cosmetic case. A small bottle of perfume. A folded gray scarf. The volunteer pointed to her cardigan. You can wear that, but you'll need to keep it on or place it on the back of your assigned chair. Clothing can't be exchanged once you enter the testing room. Sloane's gaze flicked to me. Actually, I'm already warm. Maya, can you? No exchanges, the volunteer repeated, looking at both of us. If you don't want to wear it, put it in the locker now. Sloane smiled. Right. Sorry. She removed the cardigan. For a fraction of a second, she held it toward me anyway. I stepped back. I'd locker it. Her eyes met mine. Something passed through them. Not yet suspicion. A calculation. She folded the cardigan and placed it in her locker. Then she reached for her clear pencil pouch. It was new. In my first life, I remembered it being on my desk during lunch the week before, transparent plastic with a pink zipper and her initials printed in silver. Now it contained 6 pencils, 2 erasers, a calculator, and several highlighters. One of the Westbridge proctors shook his head. Pencils and approved calculator only. No highlighters. Pouch stays out. Sloane looked annoyed. They're just highlighters. Those are the rules. She took out 2 pencils and the calculator. Then she turned to me. Can you hold one more pencil? I always break mine. I looked at the 2 already in her hand. No. This time, her smile vanished completely. The volunteer glanced between us. Sloane recovered first. Sorry. Nerves. I'm being ridiculous. She put the extra pencil in the locker. As we walked toward the gym, she lowered her voice. What is going on with you? Nothing. You've said no to me like 4 times this morning. I'm trying to follow the rules. You always follow the rules. I know. That's not what I mean. We stopped outside the gym doors while a proctor scanned our ID cards. Sloane leaned closer. Did I do something? The question hurt more than I expected. Because once, years before any of this, she had been my friend. Freshman year, when my father stopped sending child support and mom picked up weekend shifts, Sloane had covered the cost of my ticket to homecoming without telling anyone. She had said I could pay her back whenever. I did. She never mentioned it again. Sophomore year, when a girl in chemistry laughed at my secondhand lab shoes, Sloane had told her, at least Maya knows what molarity is. She could be funny. Generous. Protective. Human. I had spent 9 years making her into a monster because monsters were easier to understand than people who had loved you selectively. I looked at her now. Her ponytail was slightly crooked. She had a tiny blemish near her jaw that she had tried to cover with concealer. Her left thumbnail was bitten down farther than the others. She looked 18. So did I. No, I said. You didn't do anything this morning. Her expression changed at the last two words. Barely. But I saw it. Before she could answer, the proctor waved me through. Inside the gym, rows of individual desks stretched across the polished floor. Each desk had a number card taped to the upper right corner. A large digital clock faced the room. At the front, 3 Westbridge staff members stood beside sealed exam cartons. 2 Ashford administrators waited near the bleachers as site representatives. Our assigned seats were listed on a projection screen. Maya Bennett, C14. Sloane Whitaker, C15. Side by side. Of course. The arrangement had mattered in my first life because Sloane could reach me easily during the 15-minute check-in period. I remembered sitting at C14 in my cream cardigan. I remembered Sloane leaning over from C15, whispering that my collar was twisted. I remembered her touching my shoulder. And later, the right pocket. My body went cold. I walked to C14 and set down my pencils, calculator, water bottle, and ID. Nothing else. No cardigan. No bag. No pocket. Sloane sat beside me. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. Students filtered in. A boy in front of us tested his calculator buttons. Someone across the aisle dropped a pencil and swore under her breath. The room filled with the low, restless noise of 200 seniors pretending not to be terrified. Then Sloane uncapped her water bottle. A little water spilled onto her desk. Oh my God. She grabbed for a tissue. She had none. Her locker was outside. She looked at me. You have tissues? No. You always have tissues. Not today. She stared at my bare desk. Then she laughed once. What did you do, read the rule book in your sleep? Pretty much. She wiped the water with the edge of her sleeve. 5 minutes later, she tried again. My calculator is acting weird. I did not look at it. Tell a proctor. It's just the battery cover. Tell a proctor. Maya, can you look for 2 seconds? No. Her jaw tightened. I'm not asking you to cheat. I didn't say you were. A Westbridge staff member approached. Everything okay? I answered first. Her calculator may have a battery issue. The proctor held out his hand. I can inspect it. Sloane's mouth opened. Then closed. She gave him the calculator. He checked the model, opened the battery compartment, reseated the cover, and returned it. Looks fine. If it fails during the quantitative section, raise your hand. We have loaners. Thanks, Sloane said. When he walked away, she stared straight ahead. Could you stop doing that? Doing what? Making everything official. I picked up one pencil and rolled it between my fingers. Today is official. Her knee bounced under the desk. At 8:05, the lead proctor stepped to the microphone. My name is Dr. Amira Cole. I'm the Director of Undergraduate Scholarship Assessment at Westbridge University. Before we begin, I need everyone's attention. The room settled. Dr. Cole reviewed the rules. No phones. No notes. No communication. No exchanging materials. If prohibited material was discovered, students were instructed not to touch or move it. They were to raise a hand and allow a proctor to document the item in place. I listened to every word. My heart beat faster when she said, "If you become aware of any testing irregularity, report it to a proctor. Do not attempt to investigate it yourself." In my first life, I had not known there was anything to report. This time I knew there was a folded paper in Sloane's tote. Or there had been. The tote was now locked outside the gym. The cardigan was with it. If the note stayed there, nothing happened. Sloane might simply abandon the plan. For the first time, I considered that possibility. What if wearing a pocketless dress was enough? What if she went home, destroyed the note, and never tried again? Would I be satisfied? Yes. The answer surprised me. I did not need to watch her fall. I needed my own life not to fall apart. That was all. Dr. Cole announced the first section. Sealed booklets were distributed face down. The gym became silent except for paper, footsteps, and the ventilation system. I broke the seal on my booklet. For the first 20 minutes, I could barely read. My mind kept tracking Sloane at the edge of my vision. Her pencil moved. Stopped. Moved again. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Nothing happened. Then the test pulled me in. I had forgotten how much I loved this feeling. A difficult question. A pattern. The quiet click when the answer became clear. In my first life, after the accusation, studying had become painful. Every good grade felt like a defense. Every test felt like a room waiting to search me. Before that day, I had simply liked learning. I had missed that girl. I found her again somewhere between a statistics problem and a reading passage about urban wetlands. When Dr. Cole called time, I put down my pencil with 6 minutes worth of answers reviewed. I had done well. The first break was 10 minutes, but students were not allowed to leave their seats unless they requested the restroom. Proctors collected the first section and distributed sealed snacks provided by the university. Sloane turned to me immediately. "Can we talk?" "About what?" "About why you're acting like I'm contaminated." I opened my snack bag. "Not during the exam. It's break. It's still the testing room." She leaned closer. "I'm serious, Maya." "So am I." Her voice dropped. "Did someone say something to you?" My fingers paused on the wrapper. "What would they say?" "I don't know." She looked away too quickly. "People talk." "About what?" She rubbed her bitten thumbnail against her index finger. "Forget it." A proctor walking the aisle glanced toward us. Sloane faced forward. The second section began. Halfway through, I noticed the first real deviation. Sloane raised her hand. A proctor approached. "My seat is wobbling," she whispered. He pressed a hand against the desk. "It seems stable. The leg on this side keeps shifting." He crouched and checked it. Then Sloane said, "Could I move to that empty seat?" She pointed across the aisle. D13. Directly behind and one seat to the left of me. My pulse kicked. In my first life, D13 had been occupied. The student assigned there had been absent today. The proctor shook his head. Assigned seating is fixed unless the desk is unusable. It is unusable. He pressed it again. It's not moving. Sloane put both hands on the desktop and gave it a subtle shove. One leg scraped. The proctor straightened. I'll bring a rubber shim. Stay seated. Her expression hardened as he walked away. I understood. C-15 put Sloane beside me. D-13 would put her behind me. Close to the back of my chair. Close enough to drop something. I bent over my booklet and forced myself to continue. She had moved to Plan B. The tidal action had blocked her first route. She was not stopping. During the second break, she asked to use the restroom. A female proctor escorted her to the gym doors, where students using the restroom signed a movement log before being taken down the hall one at a time. I watched without turning my head. Sloane signed out at 10:17. She returned at 10:24. When she sat, something about her had changed. Her blouse was no longer tucked evenly on the left side. A tiny white corner showed for half a second near the waistband of her skirt. Then she pushed it down. My mouth went dry. She had gone to the locker. Was that allowed? Students using the restroom were not supposed to access stored belongings. But the restrooms were past the music wing. Maybe she had found a way. Maybe I was imagining it. I did not move. Dr. Cole's instruction repeated in my head. Report irregularities. Do not investigate yourself. I raised my hand. A proctor came over. I kept my voice low. I need to speak to Dr. Cole privately after this section. The proctor frowned slightly. Is it about the exam content? No. Are you ill? No. It's a testing procedure concern. He looked toward the front, then back at me. I'll let her know. Across from me, Sloane's pencil stopped. I did not look at her. The third section began. For 42 minutes, I answered every question I could. My skin prickled the entire time. When time was called, Dr. Cole walked directly to my desk. Ms. Bennett, you asked to speak with me? Yes. Sloane turned. I stood. Dr. Cole gestured toward the side of the gym, where another proctor joined us. What's the concern? I had rehearsed this moment in my head. In the fantasy version, I accused Sloane. I told them to search her. I explained everything. But accusation without present evidence could make me look vindictive, especially if nothing was found. So I gave them facts. Before check-in, another student asked me several times to carry personal items for her. During the second break, I saw her leave for the restroom. When she came back, I noticed what looked like the corner of folded paper near her waistband. Dr. Cole's face did not change. Which student? I looked at Sloane. She was watching us. Sloane Whitaker. Seat C-15. Did you see what was written on the paper? No. Did you see her access her locker? No. Did she show you prohibited material? No. Did she tell you she had prohibited material? No. Dr. Cole nodded once. Thank you for being precise. She turned to the other proctor. Please note the report time. Then she looked at me again. Return to your seat. Don't discuss this with anyone. I did. My legs felt weak. Sloane waited until Dr. Cole moved toward the front. Then she whispered, What did you tell her? I uncapped my water. Nothing about the test. What did you tell her? I looked at her. Why are you worried? Her nostrils flared. I'm not. Then focus on your exam. The final quantitative section began at 11:36. Calculators were permitted. We had 55 minutes. At 11:49, Sloane dropped her pencil. It rolled under my chair. She bent down before I could move. I saw her right hand reach beneath the back edge of my seat. Every nerve in my body screamed. I stood up. My chair scraped loudly against the gym floor. Heads turned. Sloane froze in a crouch. A folded square of white paper lay on the floor between us. Not under her desk. Not under mine. Exactly between C14 and C15. For 1 second, neither of us breathed. Then I raised both hands. Proctor. The word came out louder than I intended. Doctor. Cole looked up. Sloane stood so quickly she bumped her desk. What are you doing? She whispered. I kept my hands visible. There's paper on the floor. The nearest proctor approached. Do not touch it. I didn't. Sloane's face changed. Her fingers hovered near her skirt. The proctor stopped beside us. Doctor. Cole joined him. Students were told to keep working, but no one in our section was really reading anymore. Doctor. Cole photographed the paper where it lay. Then she put on a disposable glove, picked it up by one corner, and unfolded it. Her eyes moved across the page. The room seemed to contract. The paper was covered in tiny handwritten notes. Formulas. Vocabulary. A sequence of answer cues. At the top, written in purple ink, were the words, Q3 graph, remember intercept sign. I knew that handwriting. So did Sloane. Doctor. Cole looked at both of us. Whose is this? Sloane answered before I could. Maya dropped it. The old world snapped into place. Same accusation. Different location. Same voice. Different evidence. For a moment, I was 18 and 27 at once. I felt the conference room. The humiliation. My mother crying in the kitchen when she thought I was asleep. I nearly stopped breathing. Then I looked down at my dress. No pockets. Nothing in my hands. Nothing under my control except a pencil, calculator, water bottle, and ID. I lifted my eyes. No, I said. I didn't. Sloane pointed at me. She stood up right before it appeared. Because you reached under my chair. I dropped my pencil. Doctor. Cole held up one hand. Stop. Silence spread around us. She turned to the proctor beside her. Pause clocks in rows B through D. A staff member moved to the control tablet. Doctor. Cole looked at me. Ms. Bennett, step away from your desk. I did. Ms. Whitaker, you too. Sloane's breathing had gone shallow. Doctor. Cole inspected both desks without moving personal items. My side held 2 pencils, calculator, water bottle, ID. Sloane's held 2 pencils, calculator, water bottle, ID. Then Dr. Cole crouched. She photographed the floor. She photographed the distance between the chairs. She asked the proctor to mark the paper's original position with a removable tab. Only after that did she place the note inside a clear evidence sleeve. My pulse slowed slightly. Documentation. In my first life, a staff member had taken the note from my pocket and carried it across the room before anyone photographed anything. This time every step had a record. Doctor, Cole asked, did either of you touch that paper after it was on the floor? No, I said. Sloane said, no. Did either of you see it before Ms. Bennett stood? I saw Maya drop it. I turned to her. She did not look at me. Doctor, Cole asked, from where? Sloane hesitated. Her hand. My stomach went still. That was her first mistake. Not because the claim was impossible. Because my hands had been above the desk when her pencil rolled under my chair. There were people behind us. People across the aisle. A proctor at the end of the row. Maybe none had noticed. Maybe someone had. I did not argue. Doctor, Cole looked at me. Ms. Bennett? I did not have that paper. Did you see where it came from? I saw Sloane bend down for her pencil. I saw her right hand move under the back of my chair. Then I stood. The paper was between us. Sloane made a disbelieving sound. You're accusing me? I'm describing what I saw. You literally reported me 10 minutes ago. Doctor, Cole's eyes sharpened. How do you know she reported you? Sloane stopped. I felt something shift. Tiny. But real. Sloane recovered. I saw them looking at me. Doctor, Cole said nothing for a moment. Then she turned to the second proctor. Escort both students to separate waiting rooms. Suspend their exams pending incident review. Sloane's head snapped up. What? I didn't do anything. Neither determination nor accusation has been made. But this affects my score. It affects both of your scores until we establish what happened. That was the first time fear entered Sloane's face without disguise. Not because she might have hurt me. Because the consequences had touched her. She looked at me then. Really looked. And I saw the question forming. Why wasn't the paper in my pocket? Why hadn't I carried her cardigan? Why had I refused the pouch? Why had I reported her before the note appeared? She did not know I had died once because of this day. She only knew the person she had planned around was no longer standing where she was supposed to stand. As a proctor led me toward the side exit, Sloane called my name. Maya. I did not turn. Behind me, she said, what did you do? Nothing. That was the strangest part. I had not planted evidence. I had not trapped her. I had not touched her belongings. I had not even told Dr. Cole what I believed. I had worn a dress without pockets. I had carried only what belonged to me. I had said no. And suddenly Sloane was standing inside the consequences she had prepared for me. The waiting room was a guidance counselor's office with the blinds half closed. A Westbridge staff member named Ms. Patel sat across from me with a legal pad. My exam had been sealed in an envelope. My calculator, pencils, water bottle, and ID sat on the desk in front of us. Nothing else. I kept looking at the four objects. In my first life, I had spent hours trying to prove a negative. I didn't write that note. I didn't put it there. I didn't cheat. But I had never been able to answer the question that mattered most to the adults in the room. If it wasn't yours, how did it get into your pocket? This time, that question belonged to someone else. Ms. Patel spoke gently. Dr. Cole will take a formal statement from you in a few minutes. Until then, please don't contact anyone involved in the incident. My mother? You may contact a parent or guardian. Don't contact Ms. Whitaker or any other student in the testing room. Can I ask you something first? Of course. Is the evidence being preserved? She looked at me more carefully. What do you mean? The note. Its location. The seating chart. Check-in records. The restroom movement log. Any locker access record if there is one. I reported a concern before the paper was found. I want that timestamp preserved too. Her pen stopped. You've thought about this. My mouth went dry. I learned from debate that timelines matter. Not a lie. Just not the whole truth. Ms. Patel nodded. Dr. Cole is documenting the testing room evidence. The site administrator will handle school records. What about school-managed account activity? She frowned slightly. Why would that be relevant? I don't know yet. But if the note was prepared using a school account, deletion could happen quickly. I want to request preservation before anyone decides whether it matters. I had learned that sentence from the attorney Mom paid $250 an hour in my first life. By the time he said it, most of what we needed had already disappeared. Ms. Patel did not promise anything. That request should go to the school, not Westbridge. Can you note that I made it now? Yes. Thank you. She wrote it down. My hands started trembling only after she finished. I called Mom. She answered on the second ring. How'd it go? There was an incident. Silence. What kind of incident? I'm okay. That was not my question. I almost smiled. They found prohibited notes on the floor between me and Sloane. She said I dropped them. I said I didn't. My exam is paused. Mom inhaled slowly. Where are you? Guidance office. I'm coming. You don't have to. I'm coming. The call ended. I stared at the screen. A new notification appeared. Sloane had texted me. What the hell are you doing? Then, tell them you found it before the test. A third message came before I could move. Say you panicked and dropped it. They'll probably only invalidate one section if you're honest. I stopped breathing. She was not supposed to contact me either. I did not reply. I took screenshots. Then, remembering Ms. Patel's instruction, I placed the phone face up on the desk. Sloane is messaging me. Ms. Patel stood immediately. Don't respond. I haven't. She photographed the screen with a Westbridge-issued tablet, recording the time. Another message appeared while she was doing it. Maya, please. My dad will kill me if this turns into a disciplinary thing. Ms. Patel's eyes shifted toward me. I said nothing. The next message took almost a minute. You know I wouldn't do this to you. My chest tightened. That sentence hurt more than the accusation. Because she had. Once already. I locked my phone. Ms. Patel stepped into the hall and returned with Dr. Cole and Assistant Principal Delaney. Seeing Delaney made my skin go cold. In my first life, he had sat behind a conference table with his fingers interlaced and told Mom that intent was difficult to establish, but possession was not. He had not been cruel. That had almost made it worse. He had been procedural. Calm. Certain the system could only decide from what it had. Now he looked younger than I remembered, with less gray at his temples. "Maya," he said, "your mother is on her way. Since you're 18, we can begin without her if you choose, or wait." "I'll wait for the formal interview." "Of course. I also want to request preservation of relevant school records." His expression changed slightly. "What records?" "Testing site check-in logs, movement logs, any record of locker access or staff exceptions, managed print activity from this morning, and school account file history that could relate to the note." Delaney glanced at Dr. Cole. "Do you have a reason to believe school systems were used?" "I have a reason to believe evidence can disappear if no one preserves it." For a second, the old anger rose in me. I remembered him telling us, months too late, that the library's detailed print spool data rolled over after 30 days. I remembered a summer administrator misunderstanding which physical materials had to be retained. I swallowed it. This is a high-stakes academic integrity investigation. I'm asking early. Delaney nodded slowly. That's reasonable. I can send a preservation request to District IT and the site coordinator. Please include my account too. That surprised him. Yours? Yes. I want the same records preserved for both of us. Something in his face softened. Okay. That mattered. I was not asking them to target Sloan. I was asking them to preserve facts. Mom arrived 12 minutes later. She came into the office still wearing the green blouse she used for work at the dental clinic, purse strap twisted around one wrist. Her eyes went immediately to me. "Are you okay?" "Yes." She touched my shoulders, then my face, as if checking for injuries. "I'm fine." Only then did she look at the adults. "What happened?" Dr. Cole explained the incident. She was careful with her language. A prohibited note had been discovered on the floor between two candidates. Both denied ownership. One candidate alleged the other dropped it. The other candidate reported seeing her reach beneath her chair immediately before discovery. There had also been a prior procedural concern report. The exam for both students had been suspended pending review. Mom listened without interrupting. When Dr. Cole finished, she asked, "Was anything found on Maya?" "No." "In her clothes?" "No." "She didn't bring a bag in?" "According to check-in, no." "Was anything found at her desk?" "Only permitted items." Mom turned to me. "What are you wearing?" I blinked. Then I understood. A dress. Pockets? No. She looked back at Dr. Cole. "Then I want that documented too." A strange warmth spread through my chest. In my first life, Mom had not known what questions to ask. Neither had I. We had learned together, too late. This time we were learning before the facts could harden around someone else's story. Dr. Cole nodded. "We already photographed the testing area. With Maya's consent, we can also document the dress construction in the presence of a female staff member and her parent." I consent. The documentation took less than 5 minutes. Front. Back. Side seams. Inside out. No pockets. No hidden openings. No jacket. No personal container. It was not proof that I could never have possessed the note. I had hands. I could have carried paper. But it eliminated the exact mechanism that had destroyed me before. Afterward, Dr. Cole interviewed me with Mom present. I told the truth. Almost all of it. I told her Sloane asked me to wear the cream cardigan. I showed the messages. I showed the request to hold Sloane's belongings. I described check-in. The repeated requests for a pencil, help with the calculator, the attempt to move seats, the restroom break, the white corner near Sloane's waistband, my prior report, the dropped pencil, the reach beneath my chair, and the note appearing between us. Dr. Cole asked the same questions 3 different ways. I did not embellish. Did you see Ms. Whitaker place the paper on the floor? No. Did you see the paper in her hand? No. Did you see her retrieve paper from her waistband? No. Then what exactly did you see? Her hand moved under the back of my chair. I stood. The paper was on the floor between our seats. Could the paper have been there before? I didn't see it before. Could you have dropped it? No. How can you be certain? Because I didn't have it. She studied me. Why did you report Ms. Whitaker before the paper appeared? This was the hardest question. Because the true answer was impossible. I died knowing she framed me. I woke up 9 years earlier. Instead I said, her behavior felt wrong. Be specific. She kept trying to get me to carry or touch things even after I said no. She tried to move behind my seat. After the restroom break, I saw what looked like folded paper near her waistband. Any one of those things could be nothing. Together, I thought I should tell a proctor rather than ignore it. Dr. Cole leaned back. Why were you so concerned about touching her belongings? I looked down at my hands. Because they had once been enough to ruin me. I don't like being responsible for things that aren't mine. That answer was bigger than the exam. Dr. Cole seemed to hear that. She did not press further. After my interview, we waited. At 1:22, Delaney returned. He had a preliminary site report. The restroom escort log showed Sloane signed out at 10:17 and returned at 10:24. The hall volunteer had documented an exception beside her name. Forgot menstrual product, permitted locker access under observation. My heart started pounding. Mom sat straighter. Dr. Cole asked, under observation by whom? Delaney checked the page. Volunteer initials J. R. We're identifying the volunteer now. Did the volunteer inspect what she removed? No. They're not instructed to inspect personal hygiene items. Of course. Sloane had created a reason to access her locker. A perfectly ordinary reason. A reason no one would challenge. Dr. Cole wrote something down. What did she retrieve? Unknown at this point. I closed my eyes briefly. In my first life, no one had cared about the restroom break because the note was already in my pocket before we entered the exam. This time my refusal had forced her to move the note after check-in. That move created a record. One small changed decision. One new consequence. Delaney continued. The volunteer remembers Ms. Whitaker opening her locker and taking something from the front pocket of her tote. The volunteer deliberately looked away when Ms. Whitaker said it was a menstrual product. Sloane had used politeness as cover. I could almost admire the instinct. Almost. Anything else? Mom asked. Not yet. District IT acknowledged the preservation request. They won't search content without authorization under district policy, but relevant logs will be retained while the investigation proceeds. I let out a breath. Not evidence. Preservation. That was enough for now. At 1:40, Dr. Cole told me I could leave. My exam would not be scored until the incident was resolved. The scholarship committee would be notified that a review was pending, not that misconduct had been established. Westbridge had 10 business days for an initial determination, with an appeal process after that. Procedure. Not instant destruction. The difference mattered. In the hallway, Mom took my hand. We had almost reached the parking lot when Sloane's mother stepped out of the main office. Cynthia Whitaker was tall, polished, and usually so composed that even grocery shopping looked like a scheduled appearance. Today her hair was coming loose from its clip. Sloane says Maya accused her. Mom stopped. I'm not discussing an active school investigation in a hallway. Cynthia's mouth tightened. These girls have been best friends for 4 years. That doesn't change what happened. Maya reported her before anything was found. I felt Mom's hand tighten around mine. Cynthia looked directly at me. If you had concerns, why didn't you speak to Sloane? Because the first time I trusted her, she ruined me. I kept my voice even. Testing rules told us to report irregularities to a proctor. That sounds very rehearsed. It's also the rule. Cynthia's eyes hardened. Then the office door opened. Sloane came out with Assistant Principal Delaney. Her eyes were red. The moment she saw me, she walked faster. Maya. Delaney said, Sloane, don't. She ignored him. You know that paper wasn't mine. I looked at her. I know it wasn't mine. That's not what I said. No. Her breathing shook. You saw me drop my pencil. Yes. You stood up and then suddenly there was a note. Yes. So how is this somehow my fault? I didn't say it was. You reported me. Yes. Why? The hallway went still. Our mothers watched us. Delaney watched us. 2 office assistants pretended not to. Sloane stepped closer. Why, Maya? My body remembered another version of her. Sloane in the conference room, looking wounded as she told administrators she had noticed me acting secretive. Sloane at graduation, accepting an academic medal while I sat in the audience because my own honors had been suspended. Sloane 9 years later in a magazine article about young nonprofit leaders, smiling beside the words integrity-driven leadership. I had spent years imagining what I would say if I ever stood in front of her again. None of those speeches mattered now. You kept asking me to carry things, I said. I didn't want to. Her face changed. That's it? That's it. You think because I asked you to hold a pencil, I tried to frame you? I didn't say that. You're implying it. I'm answering your question. Her voice rose. You always hold my stuff. There it was. Not evidence. Not confession. Just entitlement. I looked at her. I know. Something about my tone made her stop. I continued. I don't anymore. For a second, the anger fell away from her face. What replaced it was fear. Not because she understood everything. Because she understood one thing. The version of me she had built her plan around was gone. Cynthia put a hand on her daughter's arm. We're leaving. Sloane pulled away. No. She's doing this on purpose. Delaney stepped between us. That's enough. Both students have been instructed not to discuss the incident. Sloane stared at me over his shoulder. You're going to regret this. Cynthia snapped, Sloane. The words landed in the hallway. Everyone heard them. Sloane heard them too. Her mouth closed. I could see her realizing how they sounded. Delaney's expression became unreadable. I did not smile. I did not need to. Mom led me outside. Only when we reached the car did my knees weaken. I leaned against the passenger door. Mom unlocked it, then stopped. You knew something was wrong before you got there. It was not a question. I looked at her. She folded her arms. You changed your ride. Changed your clothes. Brought almost nothing. Refused to touch her stuff. Asked them to preserve digital records before anyone suggested digital records mattered. My throat tightened. Mom was not stupid. In my first life, grief had made me underestimate how much she saw. I had a bad feeling. That's a very organized bad feeling. I know. She waited. I could not tell her the truth. Not yet. Maybe not ever. How could I say, I watched you get sick once already? How could I put 9 years of pain into the hands of a woman who had not lived them? So I told her the part that was true in both lives. I realized I've spent a lot of time making things easier for other people. Carrying things. Covering for people. Saying yes because saying no felt rude. Mom's face softened. And this morning you decided not to? Yes. She studied me for another moment. Then she opened the passenger door. That part, I support. I sat down. She walked around to the driver's side. Before starting the car, she looked at me. Whatever comes next, we don't panic. We keep records. We ask questions. We don't let anyone rush us into agreeing with something we don't understand. Tears stung my eyes. Those were lessons we had learned at terrible cost the first time. This time, we had them at the beginning. Okay, I whispered. At home, I changed out of the navy dress. I almost hung it in the closet. Instead, I laid it across the back of my desk chair. The fabric looked ordinary. Cheap, even. $32 on clearance. No pockets. No armor. No magic. It had not saved me. My refusal had. The dress had simply made that refusal visible. At 4:11, an email arrived from Westbridge. Notice of Assessment Irregularity Review. I read every line. At 4:26, another email arrived. This one came from Assistant Principal Delaney. District IT had preserved relevant authentication, print service, and managed drive metadata for both students for the 72 hours surrounding the exam. No content had yet been reviewed. A formal request would require approval from the District Academic Integrity Officer. I forwarded the email to Mom. Then I created a folder on my laptop. May 17th incident. Inside it, I saved screenshots, emails, the exam instructions, my check-in confirmation, and a written timeline made while the day was still fresh. 7:31 arrival. 7:36 locker check-in. 7:43 gym entry. 10:17 Sloan restroom sign out. 10:24 return. Approximately 11:20 report to Dr. Cole. 11:49 pencil drop and paper discovery. I did not fill gaps with guesses. I marked uncertain times as approximate. At 5:03, Sloan texted again. I didn't plant anything on you. I don't know what story you're trying to build. I did not answer. At 5:07. If you tell them you were stressed and confused, I'll tell them I don't think you meant to cheat. My fingers went cold. There it was. The new plan. Not just deny. Offer me a smaller version of guilt. Give me a path out that still required me to confess. In my first life, I might have taken it. I had been raised to believe compromise was mature. That when two people had a conflict, truth usually lived somewhere in the middle. But some truths did not have a middle. Either I carried that note or I didn't. I took screenshots. At 5:11, she called. I let it ring. Then again. Then her mother called. I did not answer. At 5:18, a message came from an unknown number. Maya, this is Mrs. Whitaker. The girls need to resolve this before it becomes bigger than it is. Please call me. I showed Mom. She read it twice. Then she said, no. I almost laughed. That's simple. No? No private calls. If they have something relevant, they can put it in writing or tell the school. I saved the message. At 6:02, Sloan sent one final text. You're really going to throw away 4 years of friendship over this? I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed a response. I did not send it. 4 years of friendship had been real to me. Maybe parts of it had been real to her too. That did not make me responsible for protecting her from the consequences of what she had chosen today. I deleted the draft. Then I turned my phone off. Not forever. Just for dinner. Mom had made spaghetti. For the first time in 9 years, I sat across from her while she was healthy, and I ate while the food was still warm. The investigation could wait 40 minutes. My life would not. The next 4 days were quieter than revenge fantasies. There were no hallway confessions. There were forms, evidence requests, and emails asking me to confirm exact times. I learned quickly that boring was useful. When classmates asked why Sloan and I no longer sat together, I gave the same answer. There's a formal review. I'm not discussing it. On Thursday, Assistant Principal Delaney called Mom and me into his office. Dr. Cole joined by video. A district academic integrity officer named Renee Foster sat beside Delaney with a folder. We authorized a limited review of school-managed records, Foster said. The prohibited note contained information specific enough to compare with materials created before the exam. She slid a page toward us. File name, Calc Shortcuts Final. Created May 16th at 9:42 p.m. M. Owner, Sloan Whitaker. Deleted May 17th at 1:08 p.m. M. Restored under the district's retention policy. The document contained condensed formulas and personal reminders. 3 strings matched the note almost word for word, including Q3 graph, remember intercept sign. Mom's fingers closed around mine. Foster continued carefully. Creating study notes is not misconduct. What matters here is source and access. Could Maya access the file? Mom asked. No. It was private to Ms. Whitaker's managed account. No share link was created, and the access log shows no other user opened it. My lungs finally seemed to fill all the way. One fact did not prove everything. But this one answered a question I had never been able to answer in my first life. The language on the note came from Sloan. Foster showed us the next records. Sloan had used her school account to send a print job from the public library annex at 6:58 that morning. The system no longer retained the print content, so Foster did not treat it as proof of what she printed. The note itself was handwritten. Her scholarship prep worksheets used several of the same abbreviations and distinctive number forms, but the district was not pretending that amounted to forensic handwriting proof. Then came the stronger timeline. 10:17, Sloan signed out for the restroom. 10:24, she returned. The hall volunteer had documented an exception. Sloan said she needed a menstrual product and was allowed to access her locker. The volunteer remembered seeing her remove a small folded item from the front pocket of her tote but could not identify it. 11:22, I reported seeing what looked like folded paper near Sloan's waistband. 11:49, the note appeared between our desks after she reached beneath my chair. Then Foster showed us Sloan's messages to me. Tell them you found it before the test. Say you panicked and dropped it. They'll probably only invalidate one section if you're honest. Sloan's original statement said she had seen the note leave my hand. Her supplemental statement, submitted through her attorney, now said I might have possessed it earlier and copied material from study resources we used together. But I had never accessed the private file. One explanation had started leaning against another. A joint integrity conference was scheduled for Monday. The conference room at the district office was not dramatic. No audience. No cameras. Just the people whose decisions mattered, Dr. Cole, a Westbridge compliance officer, Foster, Delaney, Sloan and her mother, their attorney, Mom, and me. For student privacy, that was as public as the truth needed to be. The evidence was reviewed one piece at a time. Photographs showed my permitted items on the desk and the paper's location on the floor. The check-in record showed I had stored no bag or personal property inside the site. Photographs documented the navy dress inside and out. No pockets. Sloan's attorney pointed out that having no pockets did not make it physically impossible for me to carry paper. Dr. Cole agreed. That mattered to me. I did not want officials stretching facts in my favor. I wanted the same standard I had begged for in my first life. Then Foster displayed Sloan's private study file and its access log. Her attorney said, "Study notes are allowed." Yes, Foster replied. Maya and Sloan studied together. Similar wording is not surprising. This file was not shared. Sloan spoke quietly. I talked about those shortcuts with Maya. Foster asked, including the phrase Q3 graph, remember intercept sign? Sloan hesitated. I might have. Dr. Cole said, we have no evidence Maya ever saw that phrase before the note was recovered. Next came the locker access record. Then my earlier report. Then the note discovery. Then Sloan's messages urging me to confess. Her attorney repeatedly raised plausible alternatives. The folded item from the locker could have been what Sloan claimed. Stress could have affected her first statement. The handwritten similarities were not conclusive. Every possibility was allowed to stand. Then it had to survive beside all the other facts. Finally, Foster asked Sloan one question. Why did you tell Maya to admit she dropped the note? Sloane looked at her attorney. I was trying to help her. Why did you believe she had done it? I saw her. You first said you saw the paper leave her hand. Yes. Later you said she may have possessed it earlier. I was explaining possibilities. Which account is accurate? Her fingers twisted together. I don't know. Everything happened fast. Then it was my turn. I did not make a speech about betrayal. I can't prove every step Sloane took, I said. I didn't see what she removed from her locker. I didn't see the paper leave her hand. What I can prove is what I did. I looked around the table. I brought only permitted items. I refused to carry hers. I reported the folded paper before the note appeared. I did not write it, bring it into the room, or drop it. Sloane's attorney asked why I had been so suspicious of my best friend that morning. The true answer belonged to another lifetime. So I gave him the truth that belonged to this one. She kept pushing after I said no. You deliberately wore clothing without pockets? Yes. Why? Because I wanted responsibility for my own things and no one else's. He asked whether I had expected someone to put something in my pocket. I was afraid of being blamed for something that wasn't mine. Before Ms. Whitaker asked you to hold anything? I paused. I can't explain why the feeling was so strong. But my dress did not create the study file in Sloane's account. It did not make her access her locker. It did not make her reach under my chair. And it did not make her text me asking me to confess. The attorney stopped. Sloane suddenly said she was going to get everything anyway. Her own attorney turned. Sloane. She was looking only at me. You were first in our class. You had other honors offers. Everyone already thought you deserved Westbridge. The room went still. Cynthia Whitaker whispered, "Stop talking." Sloane ignored her. My dad left in February. He froze the joint accounts. Mom was borrowing against the house. I needed that scholarship. I stared at her. You could have told me. And then what? You'd still score higher. Her voice broke. You always had another option. If you lost one scholarship, you would recover. You're Maya. You would find another way. There it was. The belief underneath everything. Not that I deserved punishment. That I could absorb it. My future was valuable, but in her mind it was replaceable. So you thought mine was expendable. That's not what I said. You said I could survive losing it. She looked down. I understood then why her kindness had confused me for so many years. Some of it had been real. She had cared about me. She had simply cared about herself more when the cost became high enough. During a recess, Sloane revised her statement through her attorney. She acknowledged that the prohibited note came from her study material. She acknowledged retrieving it from her locker during the restroom break. She acknowledged holding it while bending beneath my chair. She said she had intended to look at it after the exam because she was anxious and claimed it slipped from her hand. She still denied planning to plant it on me. No dramatic confession was necessary. Her original statement, that she saw me drop the note, was false. The material came from her private file. She brought it back into the testing environment. She possessed it beneath my chair. Then she accused me. Westbridge cleared me that afternoon. My interrupted exam was not scored, but I was offered the secure alternate form without penalty. Sloane's exam was invalidated for possession of prohibited material and false reporting during an integrity investigation. She was removed from Chancellor Scholars' consideration. Ashford opened its own disciplinary process. No police arrived. No one announced that she was banned from every university forever. She would graduate and still have choices. She would also have to carry the consequences that actually belonged to her. That was enough. The following Saturday, Mom drove me to Westbridge's regional testing center. I wore the navy dress again. She noticed immediately. No pockets? No pockets. Inside, I brought my ID, 2 pencils, calculator, and water bottle. Nothing else. My hands shook while I waited for the doors to open. I no longer mistook fear for weakness. The alternate exam was difficult enough that halfway through the quantitative section I wanted to laugh. Good. I wanted difficult questions. I wanted a room where a wrong answer was just a wrong answer. 3 hours later, I walked outside. Mom waited at the curb holding 2 iced coffees. How bad? Terrible. Her face fell. I grinned. I think I did great. She hit my arm lightly and handed me the coffee. 2 weeks later, an email from Westbridge arrived before breakfast. Mom and I opened it at the kitchen table. I had been named a Chancellor Scholar. Full tuition. Housing grant. Research stipend. 4 years. Mom covered her mouth. I stopped reading. In my first life, this same kitchen had been where she told me we would survive after Westbridge closed my file. Now the same chipped sugar bowl sat by the window. The same morning light crossed the table. But nothing had been taken. She pulled me into her arms. For a while, I let myself be 18. At graduation, I saw Sloane across the gym. We did not speak. I wondered, briefly, whether I should ask if any of our friendship had been real. Then I realized I already knew. Some of it had been. People could help you and still resent you. Love you and still use you. A real kindness did not erase a later betrayal. A betrayal did not make every earlier kindness fake. I did not need to turn Sloane into a monster to justify walking away. Mom called my name from the bleachers. I turned toward her. That summer, I packed the navy dress for college. Not because it was lucky. There was nothing magical about it. $32 on clearance. Simple seams. No pockets. The important part was what it had taught me. A boundary could look ridiculously small from the outside. A ride declined. A bag not carried. A document not signed. A favor refused. A pocket deliberately missing. In my first life, I thought being good meant being endlessly available. I had mistaken carrying other people's weight for loyalty until someone decided I could carry her guilt too. The second time, I put it down. On move-in day, Mom helped me carry boxes into my Westbridge dorm. A girl across the hall knocked and asked to borrow scissors. I handed them over. Mom raised an eyebrow after she left. You know you're still allowed to help people. I laughed. I know. So the dress didn't turn you into a hermit. No. It taught me the difference between helping someone and becoming responsible for them. The girl returned the scissors 5 minutes later. Outside, the campus courtyard was loud with carts, parents, open windows, and people I had never met. My phone buzzed with an orientation reminder. There were classes to choose, work to do, and friendships I could not remember from another life. A future with no script. For 9 years, I had measured everything from the day someone put something in my pocket. Before the accusation. After the accusation. Before Westbridge. After. Now May 17th meant something else. It was the day I stopped standing where someone else expected me to absorb the consequences. The truth mattered. Sloan facing consequences mattered. But a week into college, I realized I had gone 2 full days without thinking about her. Then 3. My life was getting larger. Winning was not watching the person who hurt me lose. It was reaching a place where I no longer needed to look back to know I was moving forward. I adjusted the strap of my backpack and walked toward my first class.